why this stuff is so essential. And like the number one example that comes to my mind when I hear, what you just said, like we're depending so much on the RPC infrastructure. Infura was down, I think, 2 or 3 times. Basically, the entire Ethereum network was unusable, right, for a little bit. So maybe we can start off right there. Ethan, just before we started this interview, he said in our Telegram group, one analogy is Web3 is like a house, Infura is a door, which many rely on, and you guys basically incentivize more doors to be made. So maybe you can start off with this, with this analogy, like explaining why the RPC infrastructure is so essential and like how is the current landscape of it in basically all crypto.
Yeah, so let me just refer to the downtime of Infura, for example. And when Infura was down and that had like a major outage, you saw empirically that gas prices plummeted on Ethereum, like 80%, because retail had no access to their wallet. So MetaMask relies on Infura. So anybody who was wanting to sell NFTs, do anything on Aave, on Uniswap, wasn't able to do it because it just wasn't available to them because Infura was down. So basically, an RPC is your way of getting data out of the blockchain. So the blockchain is like a database, like a distributed database. And there are incentives built in to write data into that database. But to read data, originally people thought that they would be running nodes, right? Ethereum nodes, Cosmos nodes. But in reality, it's very, very expensive to run nodes. So what happened was that centralized providers like Infura, Alchemy, and the big players, they made it into a SaaS. So they said, don't worry about it. We'll run the nodes for you. Just trust us, and we'll give you access. But by moving from that node 1, you run nodes, and you trust the data because you're running the nodes, to node 2, where you trust somebody else to run the nodes. Now there are trust assumptions. And now you rely on them to give you correct data. So when you're making a swap, when you're checking the price of an NFT, you rely on them. But also, they can censor different contracts. They can, it's not necessarily private. You don't know where transactions are going, and maybe they can manipulate or sell your data. And it's also a single point of failure. So what Lava is doing is remove node 3. We're removing the trust assumptions. So you don't have to trust anybody anymore. You can verify the data, and there's accountability for the providers.
And what are the, like, how is Infura currently architecture? Like, why are they centralized? And this is also not like to bash them. I think like they are right. Critical infrastructure. It's just like there appear to have, there appear to be some trade-offs that had to be made for some whatever reason. So maybe can you explain how they are currently architectured? Because they're just like a middle layer, right? They're not an own chain. They're not their own really like project. So how are they currently built? And what were some of the trade-offs that they had to make, and why did they have to make these trade-offs?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to make a scalable SaaS product is by having a centralized solution. And this is why almost everything prior to Web3 was centralized. It's so much easier to scale. Think about it. You just have this one entry point and you can give really good service. And they have been giving amazing service. Obviously, it's a very good service. But what we're doing is we're building a crypto market on a Cosmos chain. And we're inviting them to join and give service to users. But now they're accountable for the data. So they sign the data. You're asking for the price of an NFT, or you want to make a swap. They're giving you the spot price. That spot price, they sign it. And now, if we ever find out, there was any malicious intent or faulty data, they can be held accountable and slashed. So they're more incentivized to provide accurate data.
Okay, and then right now it seems that you just mentioned Alchemy. I'm not actually too familiar with them. Like, what's the current overall interest, the overall competitive landscape for these providers? Is it only Infura? Is it basically a monopoly, or how many are there currently?
No, it's not a monopoly. There are many providers out there that provide really good service. If it's Infura, Alchemy, QuickNode, very good one, ChainStack, and there are many more providers. Anchor provide centralized RPC.
Yeah.